Hey, this is Matt once again. What about another video? This is another paid request, this time for Efree. They do so much for that, my friend. This is one of two videos. I don't know which I'll upload first. He wanted me to compare two films. I've been doing a couple of these lately, which is fun to do. And for those interested in requesting those type of videos or any type, whether it be a topic, reaction, commenter, review, re-review, randomness, out of the blues, wherever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, Fatal Beauty versus Beverly Hills Cop. Now, I will say, without any suspense, Beverly Hills Cop does win. It does in this comparison. Beverly Hills Cop is an absolute classic. I love the movie. But Fatal Beauty, I do think is a bit underrated. It's not as bad as its reputation. I know, like, no one talks about the film. If they do, they belittle it. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. Of course, there's rumor of comparison because they're both movies about black people who were comedians at the time, going to an action comedy format where they play a police officer in an R-rated styled movie. I guarantee you Fatal Beauty got the greenlit. Well, originally it was going to be Cher, and then she went bye-bye, and then it became... I do think it's better with Whoopi Goldberg. I don't see how the fuck Cher could be in any type of movie like this. I really don't. Will you believe in life after love? No, I wouldn't. I would not believe that or you in this movie. So how to compare these two? Number one, I should mention, some people might not know what Fatal Beauty is. You guys know what Beverly Hills Cop is. It's a classic. Axel Foley. I know they're making a fourth one. Go figure. But Fatal Beauty is directed by Tom Holland, who did the original Fright Night, who did, after this, Child's Play. In fact, this is how he met Brad Dourif, because Brad Dourif is in the movie as the villain, and then when Tom Holland worked with Brad Dourif, he became the voice of Chucky in Tom Holland's next film, Child's Play. And Whoopi Goldberg is a police officer who got an attitude, of course, pisses off her boss, does things by her own rules, of course. You know, kind of like Axel Foley does, but Axel Foley, at least the first two, is definitely much more of a calm, much more of a... He could be serious, but he's much more of a... using his wits, using his mouth to get out of situations. And I do think Beverly Hills Cop works better as a comedy. I do think it's a funnier movie. I also think it's a movie that has a more consistent tone. Because, yeah, it's violent, it's R-rated, but it's still consistent for what it is, and it's a very fun, all the way through movie with a great set of characters, like John Ashton and Judge Reinhold and more. And also, both films are scored by Harold Faltermeyer. And then he was scored Tango and Cash before he did the music for Fletch. So I would say, I'm getting ahead of myself. When we look at the story, I do think Fatal Beauty works better as an action film, and Beverly Hills Cop works better as a comedy. But of course, at least if you want to see Beverly Hills Cop as more of an action film, then you get to part 2. And that's still very funny. And that's the thing is, I like Fatal Beauty. I like what it is. But at the same time, if you want to see that done more successfully, Beverly Hills Cop 2 is kind of the answer. Whereas I'll take Beverly Hills Cop, but it was even more of a stylized action film. Tony Scott would do that actually around the same time. Might have been the same year. I'm trying to think when Fatal Beauty came out. Because Child's Play came out in '88, so it was before that. So yeah, it might have been '87 or so. Because Fright Night, I think, was 85. So, yeah, 86 might be the same year Beverly Hills Cop 2. So, yeah, I would say Beverly Hills Cop 2 is that better version. And, like I was saying before, I do think Harold Faltermeyer's score is much better than Beverly Hills Cop. The After F theme is iconic. People know the After F theme. I wouldn't say the music was bad, but at the same time, I can't remember the music. At times, it felt like there was little to no music in Fatal Beauty. Other than songs, I'm talking about the score. Like, there's a song at the beginning, there's a song at the end, which, again, I would say Beverly Hills Cop even works better in that front, because you have The Heat Is On. There's gotta be another way. So I do think Beverly Hills Cop has a better soundtrack and a better score. While Fatal Beauty, the songs are and the score, like I said, there's barely a score at times. And when there is, it's there. Maybe it sounds better on its own. Than I don't really remember the score, to be perfectly honest. Also, I would say the supporting cast, while it's fine in Fatal Beauty, and I don't want to I feel like I'm downplaying Fatal Beauty a lot. I'll get to why I do like Fatal Beauty in a bit, but I'm just maintaining why Beverly Hills Cop is the better movie. I mean, it's Eddie Murphy blowing up, a whirlwind of just spontaneity with its ad-libs and making the script work, and he had great support with Ronnie Cox and John Ashton and Judge Reinhold. Here, I like Sam Elliott in Fatal Beauty, but he comes in about 30 or maybe less minutes in, and I like Sam Elliott. It feels like they didn't know if they wanted them to be a romantic couple or not. I read up some trivia that there was supposed to be a love scene and it was cut out. I don't think every movie needs to be a love story. Although at this time, I will say more than likely it was because one was white and one was black, and that's why they cut it out. And I do feel that's bullshit. As in, that's bullshit to do. If that is the real reason, then yeah, that is a bunch of horse shit. That is, as much as I don't like the whole woke stuff, no, that is racist. That is flat out racist. If that's what happened during Fatal Beauty, then that's fucking racist. But I guess, for me, again, I don't think every one of these movies needs a fucking love story. But I'm just saying, if that was the case in this race, it's just like, I love Broken Arrow, but they didn't, well, some asshole producer or someone said, oh, we're not going to cast Halle Berry because there's no black forest rangers or whatever, park rangers. There's no black park rangers. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, you fucking idiot? But I guess they pissed something off, and thus Halle Berry got executive decision. Which is too bad because executive decision sucks. Broken Arrow is awesome. But anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. The supporting cast, like, I like Sam Elliott, James LeGros, he does fine. But it just, you don't have that strong camaraderie of characters like the Beverly Hills Cop, where he's a fish out of water, but then he meets these two, and you literally see the bond grow between Axel Foley and Rosewood and Taggart. You literally see the bond grow. You see how he's getting them to loosen up, and how the whole scene with the bar, and they're super cops. They should have capes. And it gets to the end, and that nice realization and arc of these people becoming friends, where they lie for Axel Foley. Even Ronnie Cox covers for Axel Foley. That's another thing. The boss, Ronnie Cox. It was refreshing to have a boss that's not the typical, give me your badge, give me your gun. You know, yelling at the guy. Just that happened all the time. It's fun to see, but it gets old. And you kind of had that in Fatal Beauty. John P. Ryan. At least it was a little bit different, where he's a bit more just, I don't know, ready to have a heart attack. Like he's stressed out by other stuff. But it was still that typical yelling captain thing. But to flip it with Fatal Beauties, some of the stuff I do like, and I would put above the first Bear Hills Cop. I like Steven Berkoff as the villain, because I like, you know, he's the villain, but Rambo First Blood Part 2. Come on. And then when Stallone was going to be in Beverly Hills Cop, they cast people like Lisa Albacher was going to be the love interest and all this stuff, and Steven Berkoff the villain. But then Stallone said nah, and then took the ideas to make this movie behind me, Cobra. And then, trying to think. Trying to think what I was going to say. Cobra. What the fuck was I going to say? Oh, the villain, Steven Berkoff. I liked him, but I gotta pick Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif is the villain, and yeah, he doesn't have a ton of stuff to do, but when he comes in, he's a great, underrated actor, and he just has, even in small snippets, he has that energy to it, the sense of craziness, that just seems a bit more, not scary, but a bit more, I don't know what this character's capable of. I love the energy. As fleeting as it could be, I love it. Brad Dourif. I'm a sucker for Brad Dourif. Whether it be in small parts, like Stephen King's Graveyard Shift is a small part, but he's great in that. Exorcist 3, he's great in that. Body Parts with Jeff Fahey. Just I'm a big fan of Brad Dourif, so that's a big plus. I would say I liked his villain more than Steven Berkoff. I've said the action is better than in Beverly Hills Cop. Now, Beverly Hills Cop has a good opening, but I think Fatal Beauty has a better ending in terms of action. And, you know, the shootout in Beverly Hills Cop is fine. It works because of the characters and, like, roles where Tatter tried to get over. You know. But you look at the ending of Fatal Beauty, and it's in a mall, and there's pieces of the mall blowing up and people going through glass, and there's a suspenseful scene of hide and seek in a store. There's a bit more style and grit to the action. And that's another thing, it's definitely much more of a violent movie compared to Beverly Hills Cop. Definitely much more of a violent film. And that could kind of be weird in the tone, because it's, you have some comedy where Whoopi Goldberg's doing these disguises. Didn't give a shit about the disguises. Some other aspects of comedy worked. I think if this felt more like Beverly Hills, how do I put it? I mean, in a way, if, like I said, Beverly Hills Cop 2 kind of did this better, where Axel Foley would do comedy, but he didn't have to wear these fucking disguises until Beverly Hills Cop 3, which is when it sucked. Just let Whoopi be this cop who's a badass, but she uses her wit and her humor to get through situations. And it could be her reactions, natural reactions, could be funny because of that. Even, like, one of my favorite bits is, you know, this James LeGros plays this guy who, the setup of the film is the bad guys have this drug that they stole and they killed people with, but the drugs are fucked up, and it's called Fatal Beauty. And because some of this drugs is fucked up, if you take it, snort it, it's such a high concentration of cocaine, people will die. And I do think that's kind of an interesting piece of a story. And James LeGros, he had a party. He died. He does a pretty decent performance because he didn't know this was going to happen because of this fucked up version of this drug. So Whoopi Goldberg goes to see the kid's mom, And the mom is just a rich, snobby, bitchy lady, and Whoopi Goldberg's just dumbfounded by her behavior. And there's even a point where this lady like punches Whoopi as she tries to talk her out, but then she steps on Whoopi's foot, and then Whoopi just punches her out the fucking window. Like that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It made me laugh because of Whoopi's reactions, and it felt natural, and that kind of I could see Axel Foley doing something like that. I really could. But for the most part, it's either Whoopi being a little bit more dirty Harry, but then also here's some comedy. So here's a couple disguises, like the very beginning, she's in a disguise. There's another bit that she looks like someone from the 1950s with her hairdo. I don't think that stuff was needed. That's kind of the less interesting stuff. But again, there's other bits of comedy that work. And that's why I say it works better as an action film. There's some violent scenes. And again, as much as I say it's kind of an inconsistent tone, I still in a weird way appreciate what it is. Like, they're at a bit where something's happened at a house, and a guy comes out, and he's on PCP, and they shoot the shit out of him, blood squibs, and he's still walking, because he's so out of it on PCP. And he's ready to kill a cop, and they have to literally just blow him away some more. And I will say, if you're looking at drama, because Beverly Hills Cop 1 didn't really go into drama. Which I did. It's comedy, action, very fun. It's weird calling it lighthearted, because one of the big pieces is Eddie Murphy's friend getting killed in front of him, but it still feels a lighthearted type of flick. But it's not that you get to really know Axel Foley as much as a character. Fatal Beauty, though, you do, because you have this great dramatic scene, wonderful performance by Whoopi Goldberg. I may not agree with a lot of stuff she does nowadays, but the Whoopi Goldberg today, to me, is not the Whoopi Goldberg of the 80s and 90s. It's just not. Like, the Whoopi Goldberg I see nowadays is not the Whoopi I saw at Jumpin' Jack Flash, which I love, or this film, which I like, or even the first Sister Act. Just not the same person, at least to me. Just not the same person. But, it is what it is. But she gives this performance about how this person died from an overdose, and that's what the PCP died, and they go and she died, this other person died of an overdose, and so it cuts to sometime later, and she's with Sam Elliott, and she's like, you tell she's off and break it down. Sam Elliott's like, hey, what's going on, what's happening? And more so, I should say, scratch that. It's actually she gets a phone call, and that's when she starts acting funny. And you kind of realize that little kids died at a grammar school because of this fucking Fatal Beauty stuff. 8, 9, 10, and 12 were the ages. And she breaks down as a good performance because, like, she's just talking and talking, and then all of a sudden we start knowing her backstory, where I think she was like 14, and she's like, I fucked up. I had a baby. Find out that this guy went out with me on a dare. But I didn't want to let her go. But I was fucked up. And I would do drugs, and I was still fucked up. And then one day, I came in, my stash was gone, I didn't even think about it, and she was pretty much the death of her daughter. And she was a junkie at this point, and that's why she's adamant on being a cop, and adamant to help people who are going through this, like James LaGrosse, his character, and others. And I'm like, that's a really good dramatic moment of the character, and but I remember when I saw it again after so many years, I had not remembered much of the movie because I had only seen it like once at that point. I'm like, wow, this is really good. This is pretty refreshing. I didn't expect this, but that's what I mean. Like, Fatal Beauty, I like, in a way, its uniqueness. So even though I'm saying like these little faults, but at the same time, this kind of catch-22 of I still liked it because of that. Again, the only thing I would change is either shit or get off the pot with the whole is the Sam Elliott love story, because they don't have a great. I think they work fine as police partners, because like Sam Elliott's like a bodyguard for this one guy, but there's not a lot of romantic chemistry between the two. And so I would say if someone said we don't delete the love scene because of that, I would understand. But what I like is because the other thing I mentioned, that's fucking bullshit. But they don't have a lot of lovey-dovey chemistry with each other. They're more of a, go through a fight type of, camaraderie. That I could buy a bit more. Plus, I like Sam Elliott as an actor. But it's definitely, again, much more of a violent. The action scenes definitely have a bit more impact and grit to them. A bit more blood squibs to them as well. But Beverly Hills Cop 1 has some, but this definitely has more. And while, again, I do think Beverly Hills Cop 1 is a much funnier movie, with a much better supporting cast, much better score and soundtrack, is more of a fun movie to watch. I still quite like Fatal Beauty, and I do think it's underrated. But Beverly Hills Cop, because of just the insanely good performance of Eddie Murphy, just at the top of his game. And I don't know if Whoopi had. I wonder if Whoopi had as much freedom like Eddie Murphy did in Beverly Hills Cop. Because at least by that point he had done 48 Hours, and that blew up big. Whoopi Goldberg, she had Jumpin' Jack Flash, and that did. I think that did decent, but it was like 48 Hours big. So I don't know how much freedom she had with the comedy in this. Like I say, if there's bits of comedy, but it feels more of an action movie. Not that that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying. Beverly Hills Cop is just because more entertaining, because the comedy is just that well intentioned and naturally funny, and it just, you have a good time, you enjoying the characters. There's more characters that get a bit more well-rounded because of Judge Reinhold and John Ashton's banter back and forth, and you get little pieces of them riffing back and forth, and you really grow to like the characters, and you enjoy watching the journey, getting to know these characters. While this is, you're not so much, other than that one dramatic scene, you're not really knowing much of the characters. It's more of sticking with the plot. Beverly Hills Cop 1, if we're going to be honest, it doesn't really care about the story. It's more about the characters, their interactions, and that's what makes that film lively. And it's understandable because the plot, even this, I like the high concentration, but it's not like the most original plot either. But it sticks a bit more to the plot, and maybe that's why it kind of went a few notches down from compared to Beverly Hills Cop. Because Beverly Hills Cop, the stuff I remember is not the plot. It's Eddie talking with the two guys. One's black and one's white, and the black guy talks, "We're not going to fall off a banana tailpipe." And then Eddie Murphy's making fun of him, going, "Oh, you're not going to fall off a banana tailpipe? Come on, dude, you need some more bass in your voice." You go, "Hey man, ain't no falls no banana no tailpipe." You see this dude? You've been hanging out with this dude too long. Like, that's what makes me laugh. I mean, that's what I remember. That's what brings the joy of people watching Beverly Hills Cop. Mixed in with the great score and soundtrack, meshing together, created a better cinematic experience for many viewers, among other stuff. But again, Fatal Beauty, if you've never seen it, I do recommend it. It's a very interesting piece of Tom Holland's career because it's the only action film he did. Just like he did Child's Play after this, he did Fright Night before this. He would go on to do the Landoliers and Thinner. Again, this is the only action film he did, and I don't think he did that bad of a job. Let's say Whoopi Goldberg. There's a few moments of good acting. Again, the action scenes, like the finale in the mall, I thought was pretty well staged for an 80s. I mean, it's not like the mall in Invasion USA with fucking explosions and trucks going everywhere, but it's still a pretty damn decent scene. Nice to see Brad Dourif. Again, he doesn't have a whole lot to do, but it's still nice to see him as a bad guy. But it's definitely worth a look. Again, not as good as Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. Fucked a little better than something like Beverly Hills Cop 3 and other stuff. So, again, Beverly Hills Cop does win easily in this face-off, but again, Fatal Beauty is not a film that deserves to be slept on. As in, forgotten. And, oh, it's such a bad movie. No, I've seen a lot of bad films. Fatal Beauty is not one of them. But that's just my opinion. So with that said, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.